Hello class, today we're going over chapter 5 of the studio book as we continue our look at what the studio environment is. We talked a little bit about some control directions and the use of shorthand or some of the language that will be used by directors on the studio set. Today we're going to focus more on the control room and computer systems and computers that you might find in a certain studio. I won't go over, I think, every single detail, or some stuff I might go over quickly, but I'll leave it really for you, as some of the stuff that is in the book may not completely apply. So like I said, it'll be there either way for your slideshow. You can, again, you can download and keep all the slideshows. They're all based on the book, so you are getting a lot of the book content already this way. But remember, it's yours to keep as a study aid, use it as a reference. You can print this stuff out, whatever you want. Just know that these materials are there for you. Or again, as a reminder, these materials are there for you. You know, as professors, we spend a lot of time creating this stuff, so take advantage of it and use it. With that, let's take a look at chapter 5 in the studio text. All right, turn off my video. Okay, so chapter 5 is the newsroom, computer systems, the prompter, teleprompter, the using of using graphics and playback. So here's the introduction. So we will describe crew positions that are usually located in the control room. And we'll also be describing two fairly common and complex special effects, DVE and keying, or digital video effects and keying. You're going to see that a lot of this is going to be similar to those of you who have worked in post-production or who have worked with After Effects, Apple Motion, any kind of Avid controller, even Photoshop. I mean, really, After Effects and Motion are really a lot like Pixelmator or Photoshop, just with the added component of time. So, you know, a lot of the ideas are very similar. Depending on how the room is set up, the tasks are either going to be handled by the technical director or the graphics position, and sometimes it's the same person. So newsroom computer systems, or NCS or NRCS. These are the top level organizing software that manages the rundown, the script, and the media assets for the entire program itself, or for the news program if it's newsroom, also called the production computer system, or PCS. We also have something called a MOS, or Media Object Server. This is a central computer server that contains video, audio, and graphic assets that will be utilized or accessed by multiple devices across a network. Sometimes you just call it the server or the main server also. I know in my experience, we've just usually had a server of some kind. Here's the more common packages in North America. You have the Associated Press one, the Electronic News Production System, which is the ENPS. Avid has one called Media Central UX, or United Experience, or Octopus. Again, these are just different pieces of software that are available. Prompters or teleprompters. This is the production crew member that's responsible for the management, recall, and display of the prompting script itself. So this is the person who handles it, not necessarily the computer. The computer, though, turns the script into a scrollable graphic. Now, I mentioned this before in another lecture. You can even find now apps that will run your script on scrollable graphics on your device. Those are the types, that's what I've worked on, using teleprompters on your smartphone or your tablet. And I usually place those just off the site, just off of eyesight of the camera itself. Works pretty well. Continue with prompters. They're in two modes. You either have edit mode or prompt mode. The edit mode is where you can make changes to the script, and the prompt mode is where you're reading the script. Those are pretty much the differences. I mean, this is kind of like most modes in general, but they will be unique and different because when you're editing, you don't want to be reading, because when you tap and move, you know, you're going to be editing, and so you don't want to be in edit mode when you're trying to read. Let's do a quick overview of graphics. Remember, this is the position. Graphics is the name of the position. So the operator for a typical newscast is also in the control room. They're just called graphics. They work with CG or CapGen as character generators or caption generators. Now, this is the device or computer that's located in the control room that generates video text with the words themselves. These are usually keyed over the picture, or can be used alone as a video source. So it's like the person's name or the logo of the of the show that you're working on. The CG function is commonly one of the capabilities of the central graphics computer. Now, your one computer can do multiple things, and also be this next one, an ESS or an electronic still store. And by store, we mean like storage. This another graphics computer, a function of the graphics computer. This captures, stores, manages sequences, and displays still images. And also, you'll find that some of the modern video switchers have that embedded in their ability or their capability, like graphics value image store. If any of you have taken a post-production class, your assignment may have been to go online and find stock footage. That's what a lot of this stuff is, stock footage. Here's an example of a graphics computer in CG mode. You'll notice that this is about late 90s, early 2000 graphics. I think this is still on a Windows machine. Um, but this is kind of typically what they look like with the button. These, hopefully you can see my arrow, but these lines here are to indicate where the edge of the television might be. So really the whole screen is what you're working on, but this box on the inside is called the title safe area. So as long as you put your title in that area, these areas out here are designated by FCC and manufacturers as area that manufacturers of televisions can use to put overlays and bezels. So more and more we're seeing um, bezel-less, less, or televisions without encroaching bezels. So you're seeing more content now. And if you're on a computer screen, you're going to see everything. So here are more examples. Here's what it would look like on the computer screen. Here's what it looks like on the viewable monitor. Excuse me. So here's an example of 3D models in use. Sometimes we use those models alone. We're just reading the graphic or the brand or the title. You can combine it with a traditional store. You can combine it with the character graphic or computer graphic. It can be animated, key it over another video, or taking a straight video. Again, it's really, as you can see, it's not one thing. It can be many things. Digital video effects, DVEs. Special effects processor that's either embedded within or hooked into the video switcher itself. This is the video source that can be routed to the DVE, modified, and looped back to the switcher as a new source. So that's all it is. It's just what's generating the effects. Here's some examples of how to generate graphics to either the switcher or to the monitor itself. Different techniques. I'm just going to go over them quickly. Here, this one we call old school. We source the image from graphics. So remember, graphics is the crew member with the job. So they might be using just a regular laptop or computer connected to the internet. You'll get it from graphics. You'll send it to the DV external machine, apply your graphics, and send it to the switcher. So here's how it would work. This is the anchor box effect. So this is like where you see a box containing the graphic that's over the shoulder of the anchor. Typically the anchor sitting there telling you the story, and you'll see the graphic off to the side and to the top. This is created by assigning that electronic still store to the DVE. This is set up or programmed as the box shape already, so it's already in that box or that shape, and then you key it over or layer it that effect over the camera, and sometimes you apply a simple motion over the DVE unit itself, like the box maybe fly in or out of the frame. So I mean, very simple, and this is typically keyframed or just automatically controlled with that T-bar. Here's a second technique. We call this procedure A. You source the image from graphics. So again, it's the same. Source from graphics, DV, internal though, instead of external to the switcher. The same effect can be created by you key or layer the graphics that's sourced straight from the graphics computer over the camera. So the DVE function. So the box effect again on the corner of the anchor's shoulder. This just occurs inside of the video switcher itself. So you can see it's a lot smoother. Again, this is just an older technique, but similar, except that it goes straight to the camera. Technique 2, this is called procedure B. So image source from the switcher instead, DV or internal, and then back to switcher. So, and this is saying the switcher has an internal image store. which many do, the same effect can be created by, again, keying, layering the graphics source from within the switcher itself, though, over to the camera. Again, the DVO function, we get that box effect over the anchor shoulder. It occurs as an internal function of the video switcher. So this is all just coming from the switcher. In both of these new school examples, A and B, the animation functions of the DV itself, which is that movement, that animation, they're controlled from within the switcher using the keyframes and different shortcuts or macros. And here's the third technique, or we call procedure C. This time we're sourcing from graphics, so it's like back like the old school one. The DV effect is also from graphics. So same effect created by layering the graphic, keying it over, source from the graphics computer over the camera. In this case, the device itself will create the box. So if you're using After Effects as an example, that creates a box. And the animation functions of the effect or the movement are controlled also from within the graphics computer using a simple program. The same as the switcher keyframes and macros. Again, the shortcuts. To the observant, the simple conclusion is that today effects can be accomplished in many ways. The capability of switcher has expanded, and the capability of computers also has expanded. For example, in this case, I have used Apple Software Motion, and Apple has used their software as a controller that can also control something called a MIDI device. MIDI devices are typically used for audio, but you can use Motion to apply animation or controller information over the MIDI to create different effects. It's kind of neat though, because with Motion as an example, you can even use stage controls, so you can create light effects like you're in theater also. So there's all kind of stuff you can do, and gosh, this was all back in 2006, 2007. So I mean, these capabilities have only just expanded. Here's technique 4, another old school effect. This is the split screen effect. This is enabled by a 2-channel DV unit where one camera signal is assigned to DV channel A and the other one's DV channel B. So that's just it. The difference is you just assign the cameras to their unique channels. And the DVE is either taken as a straight video source to program or keyed, which is again layered again over some other video source, like a preset background. The same effect can be created with the switcher in at least 2 different ways, using graphics live or from internal switcher storage. And again, it's just saying you have channel A and channel B, and you just line them up. That's really it. It's not super confusing. It just looks complicated when you first look at it, but once you realize like, oh, this is just, you just have to know which one's channel A and which one's channel B, and if you're going to apply the graphics. And again, the switcher is that's what it's designed to do anyhow. So as long as once you figure it out, remember it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over after that. Let's discuss keying. We have been talking about with keying already, which is layering. Let's talk about this a little bit more. A bug is a small graphic like a logo that can be keyed onto the program at the master control. Many switchers can now handle 4 to 6 key sources at one time. 5 to 7 full layers of video, which would then be, for example, in the 7 layer, it would be 6 key and then 1 background. All of them can be independently controlled. This is how we get that, hopefully this helps you understand that look of CNN's headline news or Fox's NASCAR coverage, where you see multiple video sources, and that's what this means. We are bringing in those multiple video sources. So we're seeing like multiple cars, and then like one major image of the entire track, for example, in NASCAR. Or if you're looking at CSN's headline news, any of you who've seen, watched the coverage of the election, you notice there were multiple heads. That's all that means. All those multiple heads of each of the anchors were a unique channel. CG, or character generation, or CapGen. This is a function as the creation of text. Text, again, is layered or keyed over video. It can also be taken straight, right, over any color or background of your choice. Each text or image can be saved as independent graphics files that can be recalled alone, linked together, and saved in sequence of files. These sequence of files then very similar to a playlist, like when you're playing music, because once you put all your list of files, they just play one after the other, again, like a playlist. You have something called a run number. This is an identifying number that's assigned to a specific individual segment in a television program. This is all for organization. This is to help with your playback. So your run number will be unique. Other examples of keys and layers. Contemporary examples of composing layering effects blends with current advanced editing techniques. So again, this is just to indicate that the way we do this work is still has its roots in the way we did it 20 years ago. There, again, and the difference would be it's just faster now. The resolutions are just higher. The software itself just looks sleeker. It doesn't have that funny computer gray boxy look as it did back in the 90s or early 2000s. We're using imaging software with Photoshop, compositing, illustrating software with After Effects, and Adobe Illustrator. Remember, Illustrator is an illustrating software. It's different than an imaging software because Illustrator works with vectors, while Photoshop works with rasters or pixels. And the difference between the two are mathematics, where rasters are finite. You can count your pixels. um, Illustrator vectors have algorithms or work with their computations create infinitely scalable objects. So these will never lose their resolution. Adobe, Apple, and Avid all have software apps that work together and independently. And again, these can be found in different studios in different ways. And you'll find them. When you apply for a job, they usually will say, must know Final Cut Pro and Final Cut Pro suites or Avid suites, or typically it's Adobe, right? In like our school, we typically teach mostly Adobe. Graphics, though, today are pretty much created pre-production, stored, and used over and over again. And then you change them per season, typically, right? That's when you add them or improve them, or, you know, when you update your whole system, you usually get a new brand, a new look. Let's talk graphics and direction. The language that the director uses to call the graphics will vary depending on the type of graphics. So we saw that also with whether the director was calling a channel from a camera or whether it was from a DDR. Remember, we saw that, one is use one set of commands for the playback of something that's stored, and use a different set of commands when you want your playback from the camera. So it's very similar, whether it's the CG, whatever, or, keyed or straight. So again, it all depends. Here's an example then of directing graphics. Let's say the director wishes to activate a CG layer, put that over the program video. So the first thing the director will say was, stand by, downstream. Graphics will hear that and they'll bring up the appropriate graphic. It'll be available in the program as a video resource. So they'll see it, they'll have it. And remember, it's not like this is going to be cold. Typically, the person that's running graphics will know that, okay, I'm going to run the news segment, I'm going to run my headline segment, I'm going to run the weather segment and the sports segment, and they'll all have those graphics ready to go. At the same time, if you have like breaking news, well, that will be, you'll know where that is, because you'll know, if I have breaking news, I'm just going to hit this over here and bring that up. So this is all going to be readily available. And again, the CG is available prior to the show in pre-production. The director will be sure the graphic is selected as the appropriate source and prepared to activate the key. The director will then say, downstream. Technical director activates the key. Director then says, ready to lose. Lose is the command cue for the technical director to deactivate the key. Now, this may or may not happen, because again, if this is something that you've done multiple times, you might just get the signal, or you might know after 5 seconds or 6 seconds, I will just deactivate the key. Director will say lose, or the technical director will just deactivate it. Playback. This is the production crew member that's responsible for the management and playback of video clips within the program itself. They're also typically responsible for recording the program, as that's just usually a button. Now, sometimes even with playback, I think we mentioned this before, some apps will automatically will have a macro or a shortcut that will, the moment you start playback, it'll automatically start recording. That's, for example, that's what Zoom can do that as an example. Like if we launch Zoom meeting, it will automatically start recording. A clip store is a flash-based memory in a video switcher that can hold short pre-recorded video clips. And one of the tasks associated with playback, okay, we already mentioned it's a recording. You just, if that's your position, you just need to remember to record on the show. But again, sometimes it happens automatically. Here's how the director will direct playback. So the command for rolling a pre-recorded video clip is straightforward. Director will ready the clip. They'll say stand by. Remember, that's the language for the DDR, stand by DDRA, and then roll. So they'll say stand by DDRA, roll, or roll DDRA. On the ready cue, the operator makes sure the clip is queued up, ready to go, and they'll then activate play on the command for roll. So on the roll cue, the playback will press the play switch or button and monitor the playback, make sure it plays smoothly. As soon as the director is finished with the clip, the machine is no longer selected to program and the audio from the clip is no longer active. The playback operator can then load and cue the next clip that's going to be needed, or they can have it ready to go in in preview. Remember, the average clip more or less is a minute. So if you have a 30-minute newscast, that means you're going to have 30 separate clips that are ready to go. Again, you'll have this set up to go in pre-production. You'll know what's going to happen. If you have breaking news, well, remember, you'll have a section for that as well. Playback and NRCS. So the NRCS, remember, this is the newsroom control, the software. The playback is driven by and linked to the rundown. So pre-recorded video clips are located on the server and can be triggered in a number of ways. So again, remember saying these are ready to go. You have them already listed. You just bring them up and boom, 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 and you play them. The playout computer is a server interface PC. So that means it connects with the switcher itself or whatever the computers that can be manually operated by any production staff member. The video clip can be played or paused, typically using a keyboard or touchscreen interface. So, it's going to be something that's familiar. A general purpose interface trigger can activate video clips from a button on the switch or a click. They can also be assigned to keyboard actions like the macros on the graphics computer. So different shortcuts can be assigned as well. Again, as you get used to this, you're going to find that you either will do the shortcut or you just will have a shorthand memory ready to go. We're going to talk now about different ways that live on location works using different types of protocols or the different types of technology that is used for location shots or location stories. So this is at the affiliate level news operation is, we love seeing we got to go live. I mean, this has been a constant easily since the 80s. We like to play back that clip, even if the news event was hours or days in the past. I mean, think about, for example, if you had been watching the news the last few months, you saw that there was, we had those people who stormed the Capitol, by the direction of the 45th person in charge. So if you recall on the news outlets, if you watch the news, we kept seeing that footage over and over and over. Not necessarily, it wasn't necessarily live, but it was treated as that, right? I mean, it's like we see it and we know that maybe, okay, this happened a few days ago, but watching that footage helps reinforce the message. And again, those of us who are media critics will argue that that's just there to help create conditioning and to create help and also to create a sense of behavior modification or even thought modification, because the more you see something, the more you will tend to agree with it. Now, the argument will be, well, we just replay the same content over and over because some people may not be able to access the story at the same time. So this way, they're going to play the same news spot at 9 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock, and then probably again at 10 o'clock. So you will have at least 3 to 4 opportunities to catch a news story event. Now, how many of you have ever been to someone's home? Maybe it's your own home or you're, with your parents or your family, and notice that sometimes some people just have the same news channel playing all day. So they're just getting that same news story over and over and over. This is the way people, get divisive politics at the same time. So keep that in mind. Um, this stuff has its pros and cons. An REM or remote is a story format that features a live feed from a remote location. So again, this is a person standing there with a microphone. We've seen that. The report that is filed to look live or is handled as live can be fed back to the station in a couple of ways. Either by the internet, cellular. Um, again, it doesn't matter how it gets there. It's just something that's done. A true live feed using the internet is still fairly risky. Now, why? Because, any of you who have tried to use our server equipment, or if you've been using it, you'll know that sometimes you can't rely on Wi-Fi, right? You have server lag, routing problems, you have dropped connections, all kinds of stuff. But we know that's getting better, right? We have this book was written before I think LTE was even a thing, to say the least, of 5G. 5G is supposed to fix a lot of these problems. So we'll see how these texts get updated. Microwave is another technology used for going live on location. This is the most common practice for affiliate level newscast. I think we do have this as well as satellite, because we do have a lot of nice waves at our studio. Typically, you use a station-owned vehicle like a van or a truck that's equipped with a telescoping tower or pole that holds a microwave transmitter antenna. We'll take an image of that here in a second. So the signals come from the microphone and camera. They're encoded and transmitted back using the microwave. The signal is received in the mass control. It's separated and routed to the control room as a video source for the switcher and an audio source for the audio console. And again, they get mixed back to the program. The microwave connection then, it's the connection from the microwave remote is usually indirect. It's a truck to a repeater, which is a relay, and then to the station. So it's like skipping stones. It goes boom, boom, boom. Microwave hookups are limited as line of sight transmissions. Repeaters are usually physically located as high as possible. Again, this is all technology that, as we're working, this is probably going to go more and more obsolete. As we rely more and more on 5G, I think. But either way, you never know where you work. You might have this. Repeaters can be located on towers, mountains, or hilltops, or on a skyscraper roof edges, or on roof-mounted towers. We do have these all through California, definitely. The important aspect of microwave transmission to remember is that the remote truck must be able to see a relay for the connection back to the station to be solid. So it is a line of sight situation. If something's in the way, then you're going to have delays and you're going to have disruption. Due to these limitations, microwave links are really only feasible for local or regional reporting, not national, definitely not international. So here's an image of what that might look like. So you have your truck, it's not my drawing, although my drawing would probably look something similar to this. So here's a truck sending the signal. It goes to the repeater, and bam, that goes to the TV station. Satellites. Now, going live on a satellite is more complex and expensive than using microwave link, and also more powerful. It's similar to an indirect microwave connection. It just means but the satellite's in space. That's the only difference. So with this, we can go national, international. Again, it can happen anywhere on the planet. Here's what it looks like. You typically have your satellite truck hitting the satellite and going to the station. So what does this mean? This means this is expensive. So again, not at the affiliate level, but at the national level. We also have internet. This is going to become and is becoming what we'll be using more and more in the future. Because this does allow us to report from remote geographic areas, and it makes it reporting in those remote areas much simpler. Because really, you're just a reporter equipped with a camera and a laptop computer. You can easily shoot, edit, and do voiceover and deliver the story in the field. I mean, it's not unlike making a very fast, quick cut documentary, like a field documentary. This is the kind of stuff that then gets reported back to your news channel and it can be seen as a live story. In terms of the program feed, when you receive this content, the people in the control room need to be able to see and hear the output of the station. Um, so this is handled on a return feed right through the microwave satellite system itself. So there's a monitor to make sure that, okay, this is what it looks like. This is the program, right? Is this viable for people on their televisions? This is what this is. This is the feedback. Additionally, the interrupt foldback bug or interrupt foldback will need to be connected for the talent to be able to monitor the program audio as well as listen to any directions from the producer. So if this is happening, this is the instance where the talent will hear the audio that's being played from the program itself. Like we did say that typically when the show is being broadcast in one of the previous lectures that the feedback of the audio playback for the talent will not include the the show itself so that they get no so that there's no feedback. However, remember we're talking about an on location. So if the anchor is sitting at the desk, they can hear the program that's being played over on the program feed, what's or whatever is live. So again, they know what's going on. Remote intercom. Secondly, the technical folks on location also need to be hooked into the intercom system so they may hear and respond to commands from the director. So again, communication is key. So your people on the in the control room and in the studio are hearing what's going on in the on the field, and then the people on location are hearing what's going on in the studio. Also handle a return feed from the station, and now at times you can have a phone. Sometimes your phone is used as a substitute for true intercom connection because, I mean, that's just happening more and more. We just call, like, what's going on? And then we talk about it. The final way that we can have our information sent to the station is just strictly cellular. And again, I said this is happening more and more. Cell phone connection between the remote unit and the control room um, is a prudent communication safety device in case the remote intercom system fails. So it's, in other words, we're talking backup. This is used right now as a backup. Again, because LTE and is stronger, and even 5G again gets more prolific. I think we're going to see this more and more. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2 to 3 years this just replaces things completely. As an example, I mean, think about how we're doing these classes remotely. We're relying on Wi-Fi connections and cellular connections. Those of you who have professors that prefer to do these classes live, you will see that. In fact, we're doing this now. I myself am relying on a cellular connection for my broadcast of my lecture back to you. It's all happening via my LTE connection. I'm even in a basement, so I'm even literally underground in a bunker, if you will. So again, this is also a proof of concept what we're doing in this class as to how this stuff in the studio will work. So take that also as a way that um, as a version in a way of sort of this kind of production. Like myself, I'm recording myself on my laptop, and I will then get this quote unquote news story or this lecture once it's available, processed on the Zoom network or on the Zoom um, server. I will get the link and then apply that link to our Canvas module, our class. So in a way, Canvas will then behave in a way like control room. Um, and the for example, and then all the tools that I'm using are part of the pieces of the control room. So you can see how this stuff is just getting more and more sophisticated, and as we are all working on our schoolwork, for example, we're operating in a way in a very, very, very simplified version of a lot of this kind of production. So don't lose fact of the sight that you're kind of doing it a little bit, and think about the process that you're going through and how that works. How do you get the lecture? How do you connect to your Canvas module, whether via your smart device or whether your laptop? These are also ways that production will continue. And I would be surprised if all of you or none of you have done any kind of social media or have ever posted on social media or created a video to post on social media. Those are simplified versions or simplified ways of doing kind of studio work. Keep that in mind, that you're kind of doing versions of that in your everyday life with social media. So this is why I know I get surprised when I have students that don't understand some of this stuff, because I'm like, don't you do this every day on TikTok or whatever it is you guys are using? I mean, you guys are doing things that I don't even do, like in TikTok and Twitch and whatnot. You have no problem doing that. But suddenly when we get to professional level, it gets confusing. Keep in mind that these protocols are very similar. Just apply what you do in your everyday life to your professional life, and be confident that you understand at the very least the process. Know that there's a process to this stuff. You have to have content, you shoot the content, and then you post the content. This is exactly what we just went over here, right? Literally, with especially when we're talking about going live, right? How many of you ever gone live on Facebook? The concept and is the same. So I want you to apply what you're doing in your everyday life. Think about how you do that in your everyday life, and how that works in the same way with posting content on Canvas, posting content on in your jobs. Okay, so this is why I'm surprised if any of you have any problems or are having problems. It's the same idea. It's the same concept. The name of the game then is don't give up. um I'm sure none of you have quit Facebook because, oh, my video didn't post. And how many times have you tried to post a video on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and it failed the upload? Do you just give up? No, you don't. You try again. That's the same sort of stubbornness I want you to use when you are turning in any assignments via Canvas. Okay, so um, be methodical in your approach. Remember, that's the end of this lecture for chapter 5. Remember to go over your lab, to do any assignments there, and to post any discussion, um, again, as listed. All right, everyone. Well, break a leg, uh, and I hope you all have just really quick to bring it back. I hope you all have productive weeks, and as usual, contact me if you have any questions, or have any problems with again with anything else. Break a leg, everyone, and have a productive week.